When I was 15 years old, uh, I walked up the steps of the old 1301 Franklin jail to bail my mom out for a felony PCS charge. I watched her subsequently go onto the streets, um, and eventually that addiction killed her. So, watching her try to navigate the criminal justice system really inspired me to get in here and try to be a voice of change and a voice of competence inside this building. And look, I've been here a long, long time as an assistant district attorney. There's no question that you can affect more meaningful change from inside if you're doing it the right way than from outside one at a time. I think that cash bail is an antiquated way to keep people in custody or not. Full stop. I think when you say whether or not someone should be released before they're convicted, basing that on what's in their bank account is is just ridiculous. It goes back to indentured servitude and debtors' prisons of the 1600s. Um, that being said, it is a long march to get that closer to the federal system. I think we're headed in the right direction. I think the O'Donnell Decree of 2019 or 18 actually is a step in the right direction in that we now presume people charged with misdemeanors to be given cashless bond. Um, what we need to begin to attack is the felony side, and we need to be able to give judges discretion, not whether or not you have the ability to pay, but whether you're going to be a continuing danger to the community, whether you're going to be a flight risk. If the answer is yes to one of those questions, I don't care whether you're Warren Buffett or you spent last night under I-10, you're staying in custody until a jury hears your case. But if you're not a danger to the community, if you're not a flight risk, if you have ties to this community, then get out, go about your life and help fight your case from the outside. So that's where we need to get. I think that's where we're going to get, but it's going to be a long road. Well, as for criminal justice reform, um, there there's no question that we need it across the board, and not just in Harris County or the state of Texas, but in the country as a whole. The Harris County Jail is the largest uh, mental health provider in the state of Texas. The Harris County Jail has more people being treated for a mental health issue right now today than we have capacity of beds for mental health in the state of Texas. So if we want to start talking about mental health or about criminal justice reform, if it doesn't start with the mental health treatment, then it's not a meaningful conversation. But across the board, we've got to be better, from top to bottom, from prosecutors' offices to the first year police officer patrolling the streets. As for qualified immunity, quite frankly, that is above my pay grade. That's something that I think people smarter than me, people that have had different life experiences than me, need to really voice and determine. I've never patrolled the streets. I've also never been a marginalized community that has been violated by law enforcement. So, I can opine on a lot of things, but I don't think it's meaningful or helpful for me to opine on that. I think we are at the top of the law enforcement community. We get to dictate to a large extent what the interactions with these communities are like. I don't think there's a single person that I met on the campaign trail, whether they were living in River Oaks or Sunnyside or South Houston or Pasadena, that want to live in a world where they can't call the police and have them show up if someone's breaking into their home. But what they don't want is the violent interaction with the police and their son, their grandson, their nephew, when they're on their way to respond to that call. So we've got to be better at communicating the desires of our communities as a whole to law enforcement on the streets. And I think the way that we do that is really give diversions the space in this conversation that they deserve. So if we stop the piddling interactions, the interactions that quite frankly are just there to get a felony arrest, mostly around drugs and other things, then we're going to minimize those interactions that cause some of our communities in Harris County to be distrustful of police. And that's generational distrust. That is decades and decades of distrust. So we're not going to fix it overnight. But I think that's the way that I balance these two, quite frankly, shouldn't be competing, but are competing interests right now, is you build a bridge between both.